shorter because I want to go to bed.
We're live.
All right. Hey, everybody. Look, we're back.
Sort
It's
of.
only been a month. We're kind of back. I don't know. Anyways, Don and I are here. I'm on my laptop today because I've been in Boston less than a week and haven't really gotten into my own place, and my stuff is not here yet because of how things are going. But I mean, it's nothing bad. It's just life and figuring out how to make this move work. I'm also now in a different time zone, so now Brian and I are in the same time zone. Hi, Brian.
How do you know how late it
is? I do. I always knew how late it was, but now I'm feeling the effects of it, adjusting to the time zone, because waking up's not a problem for me, but going to bed is. By the way, Don, do you still see sunlight outside where you are now?
Yeah, of course. It's only 6:30 here.
Don's got the sun shining, and I've got darkness. All right, so here we are for some random encounters again. And as the schedule is back, right, Brian?
Yep, as is tradition.
Yeah.
You can count on
I
us
told
to
them
be
they
around.
could commence again.
Yep.
That's why I messaged you the other day and was like, "Are we meeting?" And you said yes, and I said okay. And then I turned around and I reached out and I said, "You can release it now. Go ahead."
Yep. So Wizards of the Coast was like, "All right, new UA."
We put it out there. So yeah, we'll just start with the UA before we go on the other topics, because it's always the big one. Now, to be perfectly honest, Don and I have not worked all the way through this yet, but we've had a few conversations pre-stream here and done some things. So magic. Oh. So we're just gonna kind of dive into this. So, Player's Handbook, playtest number 5. We've got 50 pages of UA. So we knew they were going to do this. They've gotten away from the smaller chunks, throwing out big chunks again. So the big stuff in here, weapons. They changed some of the weapons around, the mastery properties. They've thrown out 5 classes for playtesting: Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And they've added some spells, given some class abilities, moved things around. And yeah, let's just start with weapons.
Word salad.
Word salad. So yeah, all the weapons have been given masteries. To use the masteries, you either need to, well, at least at this point, barbarians and fighters get access, but you can also take a feat to have the ability to use weapon masteries as well.
Yep.
So barbarians and fighters out the gate, other people can take a feat to get access at level 4, or depending on how you build your character or your world, level 1 maybe.
Yep.
The short sword went back to a martial melee weapon instead of a simple melee weapon. The net is no longer a weapon. It is now just an item.
Which makes sense.
And the damage die on a few of the weapons has changed. I don't know if they added any weapons, except, of course, for the firearms are officially in the Player's Handbook now instead of the DM's Guide.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, the pike is something they added in, I think, right? I don't know if that was
before. I think
was pike there before?
I think the pike was just a spear previous.
Could be. Well, that's something now. The weapon properties are listed. Let's see. For thrown weapons, you can draw it and throw it as part of your attack action.
Thankfully.
That's been clarified. It's there. For weapons with the light property, you don't add your ability modifier to the extra attack, but if it's a light weapon in the offhand, you can do an extra attack as a bonus action.
With any light weapon, even if you have just one.
Yep.
That's one thing we need to clarify here, because it's a little different than it used to be.
Yeah, that's a little different. So, no, you have to attack with a light weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the bonus attack with the other light weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, okay. Now I'm second guessing myself here.
No, you're correct.
Okay. But though I think what we're thinking of is they did change the 2-weapon fighting feat to make it a little different.
Yep.
But that was in earlier UA, and I don't think they listed that in this specific UA right now.
Nope. They're probably still retooling the balance on that.
Yeah. All right. So with the weapon masteries, I was loving all of them until I got to Topple.
Yep.
Just because Topple is a min-maxer's wet dream, honestly.
It could be. It would be. The thing is it's still pretty conditional. Like you'd be pretty hard pressed to use it on anything with any substance.
I mean, there is that, but there's always luck of the dice and bonuses. And if somebody's been maxing, they've got an 18 or a 20 probably in the stat they're using. So it's a DC 14 or 15 for a level 1.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But of course, weapon mastery right now, I think you have to get it at like level 4, so that does even things out a little.
Yeah, unless you take a dip of fighter.
Yeah.
Those fighters. So a lot of this is making fighter more exciting to play.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more interest.
A beat stick that does a lot of damage.
Yeah. And looking at all of these other masteries, the things that you can do, the fun you can have, I dig it a lot. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Topple, but that's just because of, being a DM and seeing players abuse things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can also abuse it as a DM, but I just think that one, they should change that one up a little bit, maybe do something a little bit different with it or get rid of it. But that's really my only knock on the weapon masteries at this point.
I was, and I know we had mentioned this or I had mentioned it very briefly before we jumped on, was I, going into this, was hoping for something more akin to Battle Masters maneuvers becoming a core part of fighter, and that kind of becoming their thing was they could all do maneuvers. But in looking at the mastery, initially I was like, well, that's only combat. That's only the combat pillar.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I have with a fighter is it's just the combat pillar. You kind of lose utility, which is problem for marshals. But I kind of realize now, looking at this, that they have kept the massive amount of feats that you get, so you can take your blank canvas of a character and paint on it what you will. And that also, fighter does have a place as being, I know champion fighter is usually oh, you're a new character, well, I'm going to make you a champion fighter.
Yeah.
And I think that probably is why they don't want to make the core class too complex, is they want to make sure that there's at least one class that's not too overwhelming for new players.
Yeah.
They did actually give fighters an extra feat. They get 7 feats now instead of just 6.
I did see that, yeah.
Because you get back-to-back feats at level 4 and 5 and 15 and 16.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that back-to-back feats. Kind of neat.
And then the other big thing is Second Wind. You get multiple uses per long rest instead of just one per short rest.
Yeah, follows your proficiency bonus.
And, I do like that. That gives you a little bit more, especially at lower levels, a little bit more survivability as a fighter, and just an ability to stick in the fray a little bit longer. And yeah, they really turned back to the fighter being the master of all weapons, because you start right away with 3 weapon masteries out the gate, level 1.
I like that. That kind of I feel like you're going to be able to do a very good job of spreading them out so that you have a variety of things. I imagine you'll have one for your up close and personal weapon, one for your ranged weapon, and then third one is, oh, what other thing would I find useful? Could it be useful to push people? Could it be useful to topple people over?
And I'm a little on the fence about being able to just change your weapon masteries on like a long is it a long rest or is it a short rest? Long rest. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice drills and change the kind of melee weapons you choose for your weapon masteries. Like
Yeah, I think
I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm kind of on the fence because
Yeah, I'd have to
yes, it
see it
kind
I
of
in
think
makes
it's
sense.
action.
it's tricky because I feel like especially in 5e, you can either track 6 seconds, you can track a minute, you can track 10 minutes, you can track an hour, or you can track a long rest. And then after that it kind of falls apart. Like this is almost something that I feel like if you said like over the course of X amount of days, like I feel like it would make more or feel like it makes more narrative sense. I know looking at it, I see that like at this point you've really kind of you've spent enough time really mastering the weapons that in a relatively short amount of time you can just kind of become one with the weapon and go, oh well, like I used to slow with this web, like I would just hold them, but I could very easily go for their legs and pull their feet out from under them, or like even if I miss, I'm sure I can catch them with a back hand of the whip.
Yeah, and like yeah, over a course of like a few days or something like that, that feels a little bit better to me, a little more a little more realistic to me, I guess. It's probably where I'm coming from in the end. And we all play D&D for our realism, right?
And that's the tough part that I think to remember because, and I heard somebody say it before, like the big issue that we have with martial characters and melee characters um versus magic characters. Like you see like a wizard casting spells and automatically you're like, that's fantasy. Like they can do anything. It's magic. But
Hmm.
you look at a fighter and you're like, well, I can gauge that by the real world. That's immediately where your mind like you kind of like you ground it a bit because that's what you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that weird false dichotomy thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because I totally agree with you. I think it would make sense if like it was like 2 or 3 days or like a certain amount of not long rests, but a certain amount of rests. And it's just implied that that's what you're doing during your rests. You're not, reading a book or, working on potions or anything like that. You are just training with this weapon for X amount of
Yeah.
rests. Um, but I think anything past a long rest, they have trouble. We have trouble tracking in the system.
Yep. I agree
yeah.
with that.
Now, the other one of the other low level things they put to give more versatility to the fighter, like I'm actually kind of excited to play a fighter with some of these rules, is with action surge. When you use your action surge, you take an additional action.
Hmm.
So you can attack, you can dash, you can disengage, you can dodge.
Yep. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Exactly. You go out there and you just kind of like whiff it with your with your attacks or something, and then you're like, oh no. You can be like,
I have
action surge, dodge, or
I
action
have
surge,
yep,
disengage.
I have gravely miscalculated this fight.
Or you roll in there and you're like, yeah, 24 to hit, misses. Run away.
Yep.
I think that does because initially like I read it where they were like, well, we're limiting action surge, and I reactionarily I just threw up my hands and I was like, why? But like looking at it now, I'm like, oh, I see why they're doing this because now like if you're not a martial class, it really doesn't make as much sense for you to dip for an action surge.
Yeah.
It's
I, I
it's go for it, Don.
I was gonna say, I think the way that they blueprinted out Fighter here is kind of telling on how they're going to start reframing a lot of things to make it, I would say, more structured, but also like modular to a sense. Like I can see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make it more user friendly and creating, what do you call that? The kind of the illusion of choice almost.
Hmm.
The illusion of choice.
You know, it's
I
the
did see.
Henry Ford method. You can pick whatever color you want as long as it's black.
Yeah. Well, because the question I have is, it says attack. So is attack still giving you all of your attacks that you get with an attack action? It's like when you
So attack, I believe, is just attacking
so
with a
like if
weapon.
you're
Now I believe spells are
They are.
magic
yeah, so
actions.
you can't action surge for magic.
Yeah.
But if you're
And so therein lies why
Yep.
they did that.
but if you're 5th level fighter and you do an action surge, do you get 4 attacks still? Or is it only 3? It's the attack action, so I think it's still the same as far as physical attacks.
Yeah, I think you're
But
correct there.
they don't specify, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm like
So
gonna
you
question
can attack
slightly.
twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So I know at the table I would say, because go back to look at it, you can take the following actions. So you're taking the attack action. You're not getting an
Mhm.
additional attack. So in
Yeah.
my mind, that means you action surge, you get another 2 attacks.
Yep.
I would
Yeah,
hope
that's
so. That's how I wanna rule it too, and that's how I would, but, with what we've seen, sometimes you never know.
yeah, you're not wrong.
But
That
now this makes a lot more sense with the attack action, magic action stuff too, like you pointed out, because yeah, you're not gonna action surge magic action anymore, which
it's fair.
Although we'll see what happens with Eldritch Knight if
Yep.
that changes anything at all. I think it might be like as part of an attack action. Like I could see like if you make an attack action, then as a bonus action you can cast a cantrip or something like that. Where you're going to need to make the attack first to keep it
Yeah.
from becoming
Yeah, that would be really neat to have
broken.
like, a rider cantrip per attack action or something to that effect.
I can see them coming in that way or doing something along those lines, but at least
Or like
in that way,
you do your all your melee attacks, but as a rider to that attack action, there's like, an assigned cantrip or something that you have to practice.
yeah. Or if you have multiple attacks as
Yeah.
your attack action,
That
you
would
might
actually
be
make
able
True Strike worth something.
to.
Yeah.
That's their grand plan right there. They
You just have
finally figured out a way to make True Strike a spell somebody will use.
Yep, just make it a free rider as a part of the attack action for an Eldritch Knight, so their first one automatically grabs advantage.
I can
Yeah,
also
I'm actually
no, go for it.
go ahead.
Nope. You
I was going to say actually as part of the new project that we're working on right now, I actually made a fighter subclass for the book that works very much because I was like, why does my mind keep coming back to this? I was like, oh yeah, that's right, dummy. You wrote a fighter subclass that it's called the Rune Blade, and it's you inscribe a glyph onto your sword, and that glyph allows you to cast using the sword, cast a rune. Um, and at higher levels, it's part of your attack action is casting that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It felt like everything that I wanted out of a
like a spell
sword
sword.
magic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
because they don't do spell sword in D&D very well, to be honest.
Nope.
Yeep.
They've always really struggled with that.
All right. Any last fighter comments before we jump back up the pages a little bit to Barbarian?
I think you're gonna.
Yeah, show me Battle Master, you
I
coward.
was gonna say, I think you're gonna see.
Yeah, I want to see Battle Master real bad now.
I think you're gonna see a lot of issues when it comes to adding riders like saves to these weapon mastery things because it's gonna make combat chug. That's my only
It's going to slow
complaint.
stuff down.
That was the thing we didn't mention about Topple that we talked about, and that was one of the other reasons that I didn't like it
Yeah.
too, is because you're adding an extra. Like the rest of them are like speed reduced, extra damage, extra attack, advantage, disadvantage, something that is easy to roll into everything else. But yeah, with Topple, it's the only one where you're breaking things up again.
Yep, I am definitely not a fan of making the DM roll additional saves in the middle of actions because it just slows things down.
Yeah, I feel like they need to figure out a way to bake it in.
Yep.
I don't know what the right answer is.
Me either, but they need to bake it in somehow.
Actually, the right answer might be something along the lines what Don said, is if you wanted to knock them prone, either like sacrifice your damage or sacrifice an attack, maybe?
Yeah, like I think buying them with attack, additional attacks in your attack action as a fighter would be a good way to balance that out a little bit because you have to sacrifice something as a resource to create that tactical advantage. But still, I wouldn't know how well
Yeah.
balanced that is based on so many different factors like size and, like kind of like grappling. You'd have to put in parameters.
I think didn't they put in a parameter as long as they were only one size larger?
I did not see one, but I could be wrong.
I think the problem that we're running into is just by its nature, D&D 5e is very binary in the sense that either you pass or you don't pass. I mean, they have optional rules for degrees of success or failure, but I mean, and it makes sense for combat. We want combat to be fluid, we want combat to be fast, but this is just one of those cases where if there was like you hit and then you hit real good and then you critted, then maybe you hit real good could be, "Oh, I hit real good." Yes, destroy the binary.
I agree completely. I like the idea, like what they did with like the Medusa Stone, where if you fail by X number or you increase by X number, this triggers. Kind of like how Pathfinder
Mhm.
does their crit, where if you succeed past 10, it's an auto
Yes.
crit. Or if you fail by more
I
than
didn't wanna
10,
say it.
it's an auto crit. I love that system. I think it's
Yeah.
probably one of the best
Yeah.
D20 mechanics that exist because then you don't have to worry about nat 20s or nat 1s. If you fail by 10, it's a crit fail. If you fail or pass by
Yeah.
10, it's a crit. And then you can activate abilities based off that.
Yeah, it's sad because there are optional, I wouldn't call them rules, guidelines for doing
Guidelines.
all of this. I mean, DMG, I could
Yeah.
complain about this, and, like, when I saw there where, like, "This is what we're doing with the DMG," I was like, "Cool, I'll believe it when I see it."
hmm
Um, yeah,
It's still
but,
going to
like,
be
they
a
have, like, a
reference
lot.
doc.
Yeah, I was like, well, like, if you would actually, like, give me examples of how to implement degrees of success and failure, complications, like, I wrote a post on it. I gave a bunch of my own examples. I did more than Wizards officially ever did, so,
You're not
um
wrong, my dude. You're not wrong.
and I will say the moment that I started looking at, degrees of success and failure was one of those times where, like, I felt like my DM level went up, where I
Yep.
was like, and it would, like, after you kinda get the handle of it, like, your players will roll and they'll almost hit the DC that you set, and you're like, "You know what? This doesn't feel like a full fail.
Nope.
This feels like a pass with a
Yep.
complication.
Succeed at a
Now let's
cost.
figure out the complication."
I am such a big
Yeah.
fan of succeed at a cost because it makes it way more story relevant than just fail.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah,
So
yeah.
true.
Especially if it's only off by like, between 1 to 3, it's like really that's totally like a succeed at a cost situation.
Yeah.
Or as they call it in
Mhm.
like the Blades in the Dark situation, the devil's bargain.
Yes, yes. I know when we were doing, Beyond the Golden Vault, the only heist book that came out for D&D 5e this,
Yep.
time with, keys and Golden Vault in it,
Yep.
um, that's
100%.
that heavily influenced how I picked out things, was like I looked at complications and degrees of success and failure when I was building everything. Because, like you said, it feels more
Right.
story driven.
Yeah, it feels right. Because there's nothing worse than when a player's so close and you have to tell them, sorry, dude, it's just not enough.
You're that close.
Yeah, yeah, that never feels good as a DM because you want to see that like scratching their way to the very edge, making it kind of feeling. You know what I mean? I love that gradient.
All right.
Anyways,
Barbarian.
I'm sorry. When we get to the level 2 feature, I think it's hilarious. I love it, but
All
I
right.
think it's
Fire away.
hilarious.
primal knowledge.
Okay, so yeah, primal knowledge where hold on, and I'm gonna read this out verbatim before I start giggling uncontrollably about it. So you gain proficiency in another skill of your
Don just
choice
read
from
it.
the list of yeah, right?
You're
Of
so
skills
bad you're getting
available to
good at
barbarians at first
things.
level. Cool. Yeah. In addition, when your rage is active, you can channel primal power when you attempt a certain task. Whenever you make an ability check using one of the following skills, you can use it. You can use strength. And here are the skills. Acrobatics. Makes sense. Intimidation. That's referenced in the book. Perception. You're so angry you see better. Stealth. I'm so angry I'm moving quietly.
I guess you could rage stalk a deer and just rip it apart for survival. Like, just like with your hands, just. But
Again,
rage
and
stealthing, that's a new one.
in Beyond the Golden Vault, we had they were our backgrounds, but they were also the roles that you could take in your heist group. The Brute had an ability where you could pick a lock with strength and with masonry tools instead of thieves' tools. Just the downside is people would know.
Oh yeah, it'll be loud. Well,
Yeah, it's going to be loud, and you're not putting that lock back on the door.
I would argue that if you were stealthing in an urban area, you look so angry and pissed off that people just ignore you.
I like that.
It's like the
Yeah, like
dude carrying
this
a
is
clipboard in the middle of a manufacturing floor. Everybody just ignores him. They're like, "Nope, not."
yes. No, he's angry and he's got the high vis vest.
Yep.
See, but why not performance?
I could see that too.
Right?
I could see a lot of people argue a variety of skills as long as it was one you picked.
Knowledge. Arcana.
I'm so angry. I
I
remember.
remember when I punched the wizard and he said things to me.
You get so angry that the gods chastise you. That's how you get religion.
You want to be swoon angry.
But yeah, that one's fantastic. I would love to see some people make cases for rage stealthing and rage perception. Like, I could see somebody screaming
Yeah.
really loud for their perception check and watching to see if anything moves. Or maybe it's like a
Like,
T-Rex. They just notice motion more.
Its eyes are trained on movement.
Which is a total lie, but
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. But like, I love this because like you're getting more utility out of a class that just punches.
It's fantastic. I love it.
But you're getting the utility out of punching things. Like,
I think what they're trying to
that's what we want.
Do is like the primal energy that grants you your rage is actually like a force of nature, maybe? I don't know. That doesn't make sense though, because it's rage. I got nothing.
Okay, I've got to read something before we move on. But one of the things that I did notice is with the subclass, the Berserker subclass,
Mm-hmm.
they did something that I like. And if you rage, it ends a charmed or frightened condition on you.
Uh-huh.
Rather than just suspending it.
Also, frenzy doesn't create exhaustion.
I thought that was interesting.
The extra damage. I mean, with the new exhaustion rules, I think I like frenzy still giving you a level of exhaustion.
Yeah, but I mean, really, based on the other barbarian subclasses that exist, Berserker fell in the dust. Like, they needed to remove that exhaustion in order to get it to start competing. Because I like the concept of Berserker because, well, I mean, come on, Berserk. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I know so many people, like, they would always take something else because just everything else was more interesting. And I think that was it was just a victim of creep.
Yep.
It was just creep that happens. And like, I know personally, I always like Totem Barbarian.
Yeah, I've always been I'm a fan of Berserk, so I've always wanted to build a fighter barbarian. that uses a large-sized weapon, so they have to reckless attack everything to roll regular.
So one of the other things I noticed here with the barbarian changes is that rage can now be extended with
Bonus
a
action.
bonus action.
Yep.
So you're not punching yourself in the face anymore.
Yeah,
Damage doesn't count.
but also not just a bonus action, but forcing someone to make a saving throw will also extend your rage.
Yep.
Like I said, the focus is now on what you do, not on what's done to you.
Yep, which is
I
important.
like that.
Mm-hmm. So, like, if you force somebody to make a saving throw, that keeps your rage going. So if you try and grapple someone, that's not a saving throw, though. That's an ability check.
It's an attack.
Yeah.
Which still counts.
How do you feel about the 10 minutes compared to 1 minute?
I think it makes more sense.
Especially with primal knowledge.
Well, yeah, it also makes more sense because I don't know many people that get into seeing red angry and are out of it in a minute.
But just devil's advocate, because I don't disagree with you actually, but with the number of rages you get, like, are they gonna actually use them all if it lasts for 10 minutes?
Probably, because most encounters aren't back to back. And if you follow the prescribed 6 encounters per day, you'll run out of rages very quickly. However, good luck getting 6 encounters in a day with most real D&D sessions. I don't know where they came up with that, but it's a lie. I don't know what human beings can get 6 encounters done in 3 hours. I've never seen it personally.
I try it, and my sessions really feel weird.
Yeah, it feels
when I try that.
Forced. At least in my opinion. Like, I like the 5-room dungeon concept because that's pretty easy to handle, but, like, I don't know. 6 encounters in a day is rough.
I have positive and negative feelings to the brutal critical change because it makes it equally useful no matter what weapon you're using now. But being a half-orc barbarian and getting to roll an extra 3d12 when you crit with your great axe is just fun.
That's awesome.
And they took that away from me. But what it does is it gives you an actual chance to make a barbarian, use whatever weapon you want, and you're not losing out on a mechanical bonus. So
with barbarian,
even
though it's taken away my extra multiple d12s,
it does make it nice for people who are running 2-handed swords,
or the maul.
Yep. Anything with 2d6 that was getting basically nerfed by a mechanic that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Let's see.
And it scales better.
Yeah, because it scales with your level.
Like, you hit a dragon at level 20 and do 20 extra damage, the dragon's going to feel it. You know what I mean?
Oh man, imagine punching someone.
Exactly.
You're really gonna feel that punch.
You hit them and they just like skip across the ground like a rock, just ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
So you get the anime scene where you punch them and they just
cave
leave. They leave, cave into the wall or leave like divots in the ground because you push them back with nothing but your punch.
Yeah, I mean that actually makes like unarmed combat and hitting with a barbarian scary.
Gives you another option other than just being a monk necessarily.
Yep. You could Hulk smash something to death.
I like that.
That's actually pretty neat if you wanted to make a grappler wrestler that's not a monk, that's just like this big beefy dude. Yeah.
Okay.
I could see that.
So it's like a lot of like little changes to the barbarian, but I think we like all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any complaints. I'd like to see it in action. I'm curious about some of the multi-classing and how that would play out, but That's usually the weakness for most classes.
It seems like they're trying to, as we'll talk about shortly, we're going to do the sorcerer next, then the warlock. So, but when we hit the warlock
Sorcerer's
and
weird.
sorcerer a little bit too, it seems like they're trying to. I mean,
Push
well, they did it with the fighter and the attack action for action surge and magic action
they're
too.
trying to make them a bit more multi-class proof.
Yeah, so you're not
Because
finding a broken multi-class.
yeah, because it's difficult to, as a DM at least for me, when I'm like, okay, I understand you want to get like this weird split of all these classes, but you got to explain to me from a story perspective how this works. Like, it has to make sense in the game world too.
So sorcerers,
Because a warlock, paladin, cleric, bard is difficult to explain.
no. Um, let's see. Yeah, sorcerers. All sorcerers get Chaos Bolt as a bonus action now,
Heck yeah,
which I like.
that's cool.
That's one of my favorite sources.
It's a cool spell. It's a really cool
It never
spell.
got enough love, I don't think. I love that they gave
Yeah.
that as a bonus action.
It's
That's
like
badass.
if you roll 2d8 with that spell, and get the same number, even if it's both ones. It's like almost as exciting as getting a crit.
Yeah, it's a fun spell. It makes the combat more fun. And more spells need to be like that, in my opinion. I think that's why I love Dungeon Crawl Classics spell mechanics so much, because it's got that element of chaos in every spell.
See, the innate sorcery gives 2 sorcerer only spells. Spellcasting gives more spells to the sorcerer over the life, because you get 22 total spells rather than 15. And that was I kind of agree with that. Sorcerers were a little bit more limited. Like at the beginning, it wasn't so bad, but towards the end, it's
yeah.
They're supposed to be the ones that are just they're so in tune with their magic that it's just second nature to them. So it makes sense.
I do like that you get more meta magic options now too. Like you get them at second level instead of third. But you get 3, and you get 3 more at 13th level.
Yeah, that makes you way more versatile as a caster, considering most of your spells are locked in place once you get them.
But then you can also change one of your options after a long rest.
Yeah.
And like that makes more sense of a long rest thing for changing that with the sorcerer concept than the weapon thing does, because sorcerers are chaos.
Well, not to mention, I mean, their whole thing is making a finite list of spells more versatile.
Yeah. But you know, like I said, that they're chaos, so you're tapping into unknown magics. Most of them are not even sure where their magic came from. So being able to all of a sudden reach and use a new meta magic after a long rest, yeah, for some reason in this time frame, your magic has altered slightly.
Or you just, bend it a little differently this time.
Yeah, or intentionally do it. Either like it both works from a character story perspective, and it just makes a little more sense in my head.
I get that.
Any comments from you yet, Brian? Or did I call him?
I'm thinking on it. There's a spell that I saw that I'm trying to find.
Okay.
Again, that it kind of follows up with my theory that everybody's getting either new healing abilities or improved healing abilities, and sorcerers have an ability to heal themselves now.
I was just gonna get to that one. The sorcerer's vitality. Yeah, you can use your innate magic to heal yourself. That's the name of the spell too. Yeah, that's what it is. You get that spell and it's always repaired, so it doesn't count against your spells known either.
It's interesting. But again, I think they're trying to kind of make the barrier to entry a lot easier by providing everybody with some sort of innate way to trade their resources for heals.
And honestly, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't want to sound like that guy, I think healing's been overly emphasized in 5e, in my opinion. But
What about
I
the
can agree with
what?
that, especially since there's no negative for dropping to 0 and then
yep,
coming back up.
spare the dying and healing word is a DM's bane if you don't put in some kind of way to limit it, because then
You can always counterspell it.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, just long term.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you. All jokes aside, that there's a lot of options for everybody to be able to
Yo-yo
heal
part, yeah,
up.
the yo-yo
Mhm.
party is really annoying.
Um,
But I mean, it is a tactic. I mean, they could just be tomato cans until they beat the boss. But
Yeah,
so did
I
you find the Sorcerer's Vitality spell, Brian?
hold on a second.
Or did they not list it specifically? I don't remember reading it, but I might have just skipped over it.
yeah, this is a
Well,
big beefy
Dawn,
UA.
yeah, Dawn, tell me
Oh, it's
about
5th
the
level. You can.
yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
the 18th level sorcerer feature, Dawn. Tell me how you feel about that one.
Arcane Apotheosis.
Yeah.
You are now so suffused with magic that you can alter reality. You always have the wish spell prepared. And if you go under the spell's casting stress, you have no chance of losing the ability to cast the spell. Oh. Well, I mean,
Sorry about that.
I 100% invite people to play 18th level sorcerers because we're going to have some fun. Of course, it is limited by a long rest, so you only have to worry about game breaking repercussions once a day. At least with that one wish. They also get another wish if they choose to use it.
I found the vitality spell.
Yeah, the last 3 actually in the spell list are all sorcerer specific.
Huh.
So,
well,
sorcerer.
Honestly, at level 18, that's not super game breaking because at that point you're dealing with gods and stuff, anyways.
That's fair.
So, I mean, it looks scary on the surface, but Wish isn't that powerful in 5th edition. It really isn't.
Yeah, the DM really has a lot of control on it.
There's a lot of things where the DM can be like, no, you're extending the power of the wish, roll on stress. Because it's pushing the reality too hard. You can.
So they don't get stressed
the first
by
time.
it, right?
Well, they get stressed. They don't lose the ability to cast the spell.
Oh, yeah, they didn't have a chance
So
of
you
losing
can
it. Okay.
still get like
That makes sense.
super hurt or super aged or whatever the stress is nowadays. I remember it used to age you 10 years every time you cast Wish in like 2nd edition. So I mean,
I like that.
yeah, it used to like steal 10 years off your life, and there was an experience cost along with it or something. I can't remember exactly the mechanics, but I remember it was one of those that like you had to get your legalese down exactly right in 2nd edition, or the DM would be like, you are so screwed. Because, they're basically imploring a deity to reshape reality. So the deity's like, I'm going to mess with you. But
right.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a lot scarier on the surface than it actually is.
It's one of those things that I agree that I think we've been saying a lot is it's hard to look at a lot of this in a vacuum or
Yeah.
just sitting there looking like we can. And I know I'm going to be staring at this for a while, but I really, really wish they had done some sort of short encounter or dungeon or something like that where you could just try a little bit of everything with these new options.
You know what they need to do once they're done releasing each chunk and putting them under review is they need to have like small tiered play tier encounters with pre-gens.
They have Adventures League. Use that.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that plays Adventurers League, but use that.
I mean, it's not bad if you want a super structured D&D, because I mean that'll help pull all this, make the statistics flat. It'll make your statistics flat so that you'll see a nice perfect bell curve. There's not a whole lot of room for improv and AL. But that's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's very true.
All right. I'm going to bring us back to Sorcerer.
Yep.
Again here. So Eldritch Blast has been made Warlock specific.
Yeah, which is good.
So Sorcerers now have a cantrip called Sorcerer's Burst.
Sorcerer's Spurt.
Has a range of 120 feet.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. It does 1d6 damage, but if you roll a 6, you can roll another d6 and add that to the damage, which you can do multiple times. You can do it as many times as your spellcasting ability modifier. So if you have a +4 ability modifier, you could potentially be rolling 5d6 for this cantrip.
They put exploding dice into 5e.
Yep.
Which is kind of fun.
I can rest now.
And they just snuck it in there.
I totally missed that in reading through it today. I totally went over it being exploding dice.
And it still levels up as a cantrip as you level as well. So if they've got the isn't there maybe that's only for physical attacks, because I remember Tasha's had the new feats where if you rolled like a 1 or a 2, you could re-roll a damage die.
They have
one for magic?
Elemental Mastery or something like that.
See, that could make this cantrip real fun.
Yeah,
because you also choose a damage type when you cast a cantrip. So this is any type of elemental damage you want. You just choose what type when you cast it, so you're not stuck with one type.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I mean,
which means
elemental mastery would be limited on that, but if you had like your signature energy type that you use typically, that would get you a lot of rerolls, if I remember correctly, because if you roll a 1, it just makes you reroll it again, kind of like Great Weapon Mastery.
Also, if you're a sorcerer now, are you taking another damaging cantrip? Well, yes, I mean, there's a few you would that would do damage types you can't cover, I guess, but like really, this looks like bang for its buck. This is the damaging cantrip you take as a sorcerer.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to split the difference with Warlock there almost. Yeah. And make it a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah, and I think you just get that too. I don't know if you have to choose it.
It says you get that always prepared along with Chaos Bolt.
Yep. That's what I thought.
I think they should really lean into these silly dice rolling.
Yep, I love it.
Mechanics. There's a couple systems. I think it's 13th Age, which is very similar to 5e. Does a lot of things where, like, if you roll odd, or if you roll above this number, and like you said with Sorcerer, I feel like you're tapping into chaos, and what's better way to tap into chaos with dice than like picking arbitrary mechanics like exploding dice, or you get 2 of the same. And like, I'm here for it. I think this is amazing.
Yeah. I think they should also add in the ability to upcast into cantrips. You want to put
meta magic into it.
Yeah, you want to put spell slots in it. This is what they do.
Did the barbarian have a way to heal itself that I missed and glazed over, or no?
Let me look.
No,
no, okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. That kind of makes.
I think they might be saying that
sense, a little bit though.
Yeah, because
that would
rage doubles your. Yeah,
Yeah.
So their healing would be worth twice as much.
Yeah. So the Sorcerer's Vitality, 3rd level abjuration spell, sorcerer only. You regain number of hit points equal to 2d6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And if you have any of the following conditions, they are ended: blinded, deafened, and poisoned. Plus, as you upcast it, you get more d6s. That is a nice 3rd level self heal, because it's only range of self.
It's not.
Sorry, I just read something. Did you guys read Persistent Rage?
I think I did. I don't remember.
Like the end of it. your rage. Oh, never mind. It's your rage still ends up incapacitated or don heavy armor. I thought it
Yeah.
said it doesn't end. I was like,
Oh no. It still does,
wait
yeah.
a minute.
Dude, you die angry.
Yeah, you're incapacitated and get up. I'm still pissed.
All right. So
Sorry.
thoughts on the heal, Brian? 'Cause you were about to say something there.
I think it's really cool. I do think it's kind of funny that it's just for you. I do see a great option here that, like, when we get the Celestial Origin Sorcerer, they should be allowed to split it, they should be allowed to
There,
change the range on it. Like right there. Perfect. Perfect for it. But yeah, I feel like I'm here for it, and it kind of makes sense with the sorcerer where it's like, well, I can use my magic to restore myself, but you don't want me trying to heal you.
Yep, you might.
I
catch
don't
on
know what it'll do
fire.
to you. We tried it before, didn't work well.
Yep, this dude's head
You know,
exploded.
there's James over there. He's a houseplant now.
Oh, poor James.
I carry him around his little bonsai pot. Oh, I'm excited. I've played, I think, a grand total of one sorcerer. And like it was a fun caster, but it didn't really scratch the itch that the Pathfinder sorcerer did. Like the Pathfinder sorcerer felt like it had a place, and I feel like now they're really chiseling out a place that you're not the person that twins
Everything.
the same spell over and over.
Especially with.
You've
Oh, go ahead. Continue.
yes,
I'm
you can
going
do
into it.
you can do more stuff. Yeah, so go ahead, hit it.
Because perfect lead in the 5th level spell Sorcery Incarnate Transmutation, sorcerer only, bonus action, self only, concentration up to a minute. The magic within you blooms, transforming you into a glimmering beam of magical energy. You regain 1d4 sorcery points, and until the spell ends, you also can use up to 2 of your metamagic options on each spell you cast, as long as you have the sorcery points. And you have advantage on the attack rolls of every spell you cast.
So you basically have a limit break as a sorcerer.
Yeah, I was thinking Super
You're an anime
Super
character.
Saiyan, Limit Break, anime character.
Yep.
It all fits.
You
And
haven't even seen my final form. Whoa.
I am here for it, especially for a 5th level spell slot.
That's pretty badass.
Because
you
bonus action, you
feels-
cast that, and then your action, you just use your sorceress cantrip there.
Yeah.
And that's how you start. And then
It's
it
beautiful.
blows up from there, because next turn, as long as you have concentration going,
And
you release another leveled spell with 2 metamagic feats on it.
So
I think it's Dragna Carta that did a redo of the sorcerer, and his whole idea behind redoing the sorcerer completely is he wanted them to feel like X-Men or anime characters, and this scratches that
Mhm.
itch
Yeah.
where like you are the magic and the magic is you, and now oh my gosh, look at me, I'm glowing and lightning bolt is coming out of my
you
eyes.
could totally play Terra from Final Fantasy VI now.
Oh, yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a sorcerer.
Yep. You could be an half Esper. Sorry, I just had this whole thing mapped out in my head. I'm like, that would be freaking cool.
Well, let's see. The metamagic updates. Let's see what we got here. Extend spell makes it easier to maintain concentration. Distance spell increases the spell's range based on your sorcerer level rather than doubling. So yeah, like they say there, for most spells that gets a greater increase than it did. Careful spell prevents an affected creature from taking half damage on a successful save. Heightened spell costs 2 instead of 3, but imposes disadvantage on saves. Let's see.
I like that.
The quicken spell.
Because there are a couple spells out there that like they take a couple failed saves to take effect. I'm trying to remember what that one is. There's one spell out there that like everybody wants to take, but it takes you to they have to fail 3 saves, or it its effect immediately ends, and I'm drawing a blank on what spell that is, but I feel like this gives it a fighting chance.
Oh, I know what spell you're talking about. I'm just trying to remember what it's called.
'Cause everybody wants to take it, and then you're like, well, like, if you think about it, you're never gonna get a chance to use it.
Hmm. Yeah, the only way it'll work is if you have a divination wizard on your team that can force failed saves. And then
Yeah,
you might
and even
stand a
then,
chance.
if you're doing it on somebody that's not like, if you're doing it in a regular battle, that might
Hmm.
only last 5 rounds of combat.
Yep. They did adjust
Okay.
repelling blast. That's interesting.
I was like, the quicken spell thing was confused me when I was reading it, but yeah, they just made it clear that it follows the general rule set
Yep.
about only like that's how I
Only
understood
one
it every
slotted
time. Yeah.
spells. Yeah. Only one slotted spell per turn, or whatever you want to call it. Right?
I don't know how I feel about the twin spell change.
Where they nerfed it.
Yeah.
I think
Like I see
we're gonna see
Go ahead.
they're gonna have to cut down some of the overpowered ones. And it's never pleasant to see them balanced by nerfing.
Mhm.
But I
I
think
see why
you
they
have to
did it
do it
that
in
way.
some cases.
They
I
did
mean,
it that way to help you burn through, or help you basically cast more spells.
yeah. But the thing is you have to cast it's the same spell.
Uh-huh.
So that's also
So if you run out of 5th level spell slots and you want to drop another 5th level fireball, you can.
yeah, exactly. I see that, but it's like some of the utility of twin spell was being able to like
Hmm.
hit 2 different targets
Oh
that
yeah.
maybe were outside the
Witch bolt.
range. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And
I sure hope they fix Witch Bolt.
I feel like they've nerfed it, but I think they've also taken away some of the utility. Now it's just an extra spell slot is what it
Hmm.
is.
Yep. Yep.
But
It's a
honest
basically a duplicated spell.
but on the other hand though, why are you taking that if you can recover spell slots with your sorcery points anyway?
Because it costs
That
less.
Yeah, it also like it just makes it more like I think it's towards the bottom of the list of meta magics for me now because of that, honestly.
I don't know. I'd have to mess around with it and play. I think early on it would be very powerful.
Oh yeah, early on, yeah, because you get that extra spell in there and if you need it, but I think overall it's not my favorite anymore.
No, but I could definitely see it's functional, especially from about level 1 to 4. It'd be very powerful.
Let's see.
Well, I should say, I guess, level 2 to 4. But still,
No
that's a
more
decent.
no more Palpatine Witch Bolt.
Yeah, I really hope they fix Witch Bolt.
It's such a
We'll
cool spell.
see.
It has so much potential. Like, I wish you could just keep it rolling, and as long as you keep concentration, you could make attacks on different targets. But yeah, because concentration's such a
Also,
pain.
that spell was Contagion, was the one I was thinking of.
Ah, yes. Okay.
What?
What?
Hold on, I gotta read this to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. So 10th level Draconic sorcery ability, Draconic Exhalation. Once per turn, when you cast Sorcerous Burst, you can inhale it in a 15-foot cone rather than select a target within range.
That's amazing.
Like you're not, like you might hit multiple targets with that, but it's short range. But that's cool though. That's kind of cool. I don't know.
I wonder if this is the template for all the subclasses moving forward. Like,
it changes your sorceress burst into different tools.
and I would like that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that is the way to do a subclass. Like, kind of have a template that you build it out on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it powerful enough as a 10th level feature? I'd have to play around with it.
I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do more with the Warlock's Patron.
That might be coming later, or they might that might be I don't know, might be coming later. But
I think that should be like an entire creation system in of itself. That's just my opinion.
So jump into the Warlock. Don pulled us there, so we're going.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was just reading through it, and I'm like, oh.
So first major change with the Warlock is, well, I don't know. I don't know about first. Anyway, your primary ability is a Warlock. You can choose between intelligence, wisdom, or charisma now. It is not just flat charisma. And for the story purposes and the character purposes, I'm here for it.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't change a whole lot. It makes wisdom a bit more powerful, but that's about it. Because wisdom saves are super strong anyways.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin is now the Warlock isn't always going to be the party face.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I actually kind of like because it adds a little bit of versatility. You just have to watch out about those holy trinity of stats, the dexterity, con, and wisdom, because those are the most common saves. So when you put those as primary attributes, it can get kind of hairy.
They really need to come up with a different save system where it's a mixture of stats.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Derived stats, like my game.
All right. And then the other big change for the Warlock is Eldritch Blast. Multiple changes to Eldritch Blast. First one is Warlocks only now.
Yep.
You can only get Eldritch Blast if you're a Warlock. Second part of Eldritch Blast, it only levels with your Warlock level.
Yep.
So no longer one level of Warlock and double-digit levels of something else, and getting the benefit from a high-level Eldritch Blast. I'm here for that. That makes a lot more sense to me, and that makes Eldritch Blast not a you have to have this if you're making any kind of Warlock
or Paladin,
because you get it as a Warlock regardless now. But it just, you have to focus in Warlock to make it as powerful as it was.
Yeah, which I actually really like, because what it looks like they're doing with 1D&D a lot is they're bringing single class focus in a lot more. And I think we're seeing that, where you have this beautiful set of mechanics, but only if you keep leveling in this specific class.
But you also end up with spell slots as a Warlock instead of
your
all
two.
Instead of your 2, you get spell slots and you have prepared spells.
Oh.
They decided the 5e experiment didn't work.
Did you see that the packs are based on only 2 of those spellcasting abilities?
Are they?
Pact of the Blade, Chain, and Tome. Wisdom or Charisma.
I kind of like
Intelligence or Charisma, or Intelligence or Wisdom. It actually limits your selection.
That makes sense, though.
Yep. I just thought that was interesting. I was going through the list. I'm like, well, there's some narrowing.
Yeah, also, Hex is now Warlock only.
Which, again, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And Hex also only does damage the first time you hit with an attack, instead of every time.
Yeah. Is it still concentration?
Was Hex concentration? I don't think Hex was concentration, was it?
Yes.
Ryan? It was? Okay.
It was. Yeah, because my Warlock runs into a lot of holes.
That's why I was asking, because if it's concentration, that almost makes Hex not worth getting.
As we all scroll back up through the UA. Where did it go?
I don't
Attack
know.
familiar, modify spell.
My life is a lie.
memorize.
Because of concentration.
Yep, up to an hour though.
Yeah, but still, it's a concentration, which means
You can upcast it though to do more damage and and last for longer.
see that's worth it. Maybe
As
though,
the tides have turned with that mention there.
well, maybe because you still run into the situation where it's only an extra d6 damage.
Let's see. You place a curse in range until you can deal an extra 1d6 damage when you hit it with an attack roll. You deal this extra damage only once per turn. Once per turn. That opens it up a little bit because
yeah, you
turns.
can do attacks of opportunities.
Choose one of the 6 abilities when you cast a spell. They've got disadvantage on the ability checks. So boom. You can still move it with a bonus action. Remove curse gets rid of it. Yeah, when you upcast it to 3rd or 4th level. Yeah, using a 3rd or 4th level spell slot, it goes up to 8 hours, and it's 2d6. And if you use 5th level or higher, it's 24 hours and 3d6.
Yeah, I'm still torn as to whether or not that's actually worth it.
I think it does. Well, I mean, you get it as a warlock regardless.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying,
But
I don't know if it's worth keeping concentration on, depending on what other things warlocks can do.
Well, can you tell us about Hexmaster, Brian, before I get down there?
Hold on, I'm hurrying.
I didn't know if you were there first. Let's see.
Oh, I'm all over the place.
Me too. I keep reading through stuff.
So Hexmaster, it's level 18. Like compared to the sorcerer level 18, this is kind of weak.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You can cast it without expending the spell slot.
See, that makes it worth it because then the only problem is again concentration. Which, I mean, if you have nothing else you're focusing your concentration on, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm just I don't know. I tend to pick a lot of spells as a warlock that tend to have concentration or, things like that.
I think that was always the thing originally with warlock, though, is they tried to balance it out by like all of your cool stuff was concentration based. So it's like you can dump more damage as a warlock, or you can have a demon under your control.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
you said, but Don, I'm letting you go.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, you can do this or you can do this, but you have to sacrifice concentration.
You can't do yeah.
That's the but that they throw in there. Is you can do this or you can do this, but not at the same time.
They've also basically almost forced. Actually, no, not basically. They have forced upon the DM, if you have an 11th level warlock, that the patron is going to come into play.
Yep.
Because they can cast Contact Other Plane, and they automatically succeed on the saving throw and don't expend a spell slot. So they are talking to their patron.
Yeah.
I mean, Contact Other Plane isn't as simple as talking to their patron. Well, at least how it's currently written. And I know this because I had a Hexblade follower of the Raven Queen that would use the spell like almost every night before they went to bed.
It's more implication than actual communication. I still think I don't know. I got kind of spoiled reading through the Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff. I think patrons and gods should be way more active in those character classes' lives. Like, it should be something where, like, it is this crushing presence that is calling you on the contract constantly. Like, it should be, you're doing this, but you have to pay this price, I don't know. I like that because it makes it feel more.
I'd be curious to see that built in.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you could do that with a warlock, and then cleric and paladin.
Yeah.
Both are very much, but I mean, even druid.
Yeah. And I think those patrons, even the gods, whatever you want to call them, let's just, broadband call them all patrons. I think involving them into those characters' lives more is something that I see is something you could really take advantage of to drive story. But that's just me.
I mean, I'm here for throwing in more contact with the patron and making it be something else.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like that essentially unless your backstory has some reason that you don't communicate with your patron, I wouldn't see why any warlock would not try and use that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
yeah.
That's what I like the most about the warlock class is just I feel like that patron
Mm-hmm.
bond. It's I've had some of the most fun with my warlock players because they go into it where they're like the bond is something that I really want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now I have a player who's playing a, for lack of a better term, radiation genie.
Yeah.
And he was like, "So this is my character's backstory. That this is what he thinks it is. Do with it what you will."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited because we are getting very close to a point where a lot of things are going to be answered, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the character feels and how the player feels. The player is along for the ride and is like, "I have been enjoying every second of this," and I'm like, I apologize in advance for like what realizations you will come to.
Yeah, I like doing that. I love those great, like when you pull back the curtain and they're like, oh no. Like in my opinion, a lot of the times in the games that I run, unbeknownst to the warlocks themselves, is they've kind of made a deal like Spawn did, where their powers are actually being fueled by their own soul and they don't realize it.
Ooh, I like that.
And all their patron has done has been able to open up their soul so they can draw on their own energy. I really like that. It makes it fun.
Oh, and then they come to that
Their
realization
soul is,
like halfway down the
yeah,
game, and it's just like,
yeah, they're
oh,
shredding their own soul by embracing the power. I thought that's super fun.
yeah. And I think we still
Okay.
have that here. I think with all the invocations
Mm-hmm.
and just that heavy reliance on your patron, like I feel like we still have it there. But I agree with you. I don't know how you would do it in
Yeah,
5e, like create some sort of
because like,
mechanical
yeah,
tie.
because like one of the things that they do in DCC is if you start embracing the eldritch energies or whatever too much, you start getting marks of corruption, which are like mutations. And so like you start
Ooh, that's
picking up
cool.
elements of your patron. Like it could be like you start to grow another head out of the side of your neck, or like additional limbs start twisting out of you. Like, I mean, it gets pretty eldritch, but like you could tone it down a little bit. But I like that concept where if you keep diving too deep into it, you just like start mutating at like a visceral level because the power's just corrupting you.
All right. I'm skipping ahead. We'll come back to the wizard. We'll come back into the wizard shortly, but I'm skipping ahead for a minute here.
Do it. Do it. I'm
Well,
sorry.
because maybe this has been in previous. Yeah, I'm starting to fade, so I might leave you two alone here in a minute. Maybe this has been in previous rules too, but they actually have a rule in here for knocking a creature out. So the attacker can, instead of like killing a creature and reducing it to 0, the attacker can reduce it to 1 hit point, and it has the unconscious condition. So no more, oh, I wanted to do non-lethal damage, or oh, I didn't want to kill it. And the DM being like, well, too bad. And this is in the player handbook. So this is the rule that the player knows and can activate. So, because I've seen some horror stories about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, I didn't want to kill it, but the DM said that it was dead and I had no choice. And then along with the knocking out a creature, it specifies for a long rest, you have to have 1 hit point to receive the benefits of a long rest.
Oh, nice. So if you're unconscious,
You don't get the benefits of a long rest until you have 1 hit point.
which could be 1d4 hours based on current, unless you get healing.
Oh. And they still have the regain all hit dice on a long rest, which I don't like. But, you know.
Again, like it definitely makes it to where you don't really have to worry about characters being limited on healing resources.
but then they also specify, which I think I pointed out last time too, they also specify that after you finish a long rest, you must wait at least 16 hours before starting another one.
Which is fine, but that means that not only do you have to worry about HP as a resource and some hit die as a resource at like level 20, you're dealing with like 20D something hit dice that they can burn a day.
I think the way to do it, and I don't know, I don't think it's 5e friendly. I think the way to do it is you make it so if you long rest in a safe location, you get all your hit dice back. But if you long rest in like on the road or like in a campsite, like not in a walled-in city where you are safe, you only get half, or you don't even get any of your hit dice back. Like we're gonna really go crazy.
I also think that there should be a penalty where you don't regain any hit dice if you're armored when you're resting.
I like that.
I haven't seen any rules in 1D&D yet about that, but that is a current 5e rule if you're wearing medium or heavy armor.
I know.
You don't actually get the I'm just throwing it out there for anybody else too.
Yeah.
You also don't get the benefits of a long rest if you sleep in medium or heavy armor.
Yeah, you just don't gain exhaustion.
Yeah. But, there was also a thing in there, I'm pretty sure, about you're not gaining levels of exhaustion, but you're not getting the full benefits of a long rest either. And so maybe I just envisioned another negative to that after a few days or something, or maybe it said something. I'm not 100% sure anymore. But, your heavily armored character, with how long it takes to put heavy armor on and take it off, they're not going to have that armor on for an encounter. They're not going to have time to get that armor on for an encounter, because I think
That's
it takes
why
10
we all
minutes.
have our
donning heavy armor is
10 minutes?
Conservatively 10 minutes with somebody else's help. I don't know if you've ever put on even a gambeson and chainmail. If you can get it all on in 10 minutes, I'm proud of you.
They have rules for that.
Yeah,
in the book,
donning
how
armor
long it
takes
to
forever.
don and off armor.
Like fitting and adjusting full plate is a process that can take a half an hour easy, especially if it's a new set.
Yeah. So for any players and or DMs newer or experienced that may not know that rule, it's there. Because like I'm even a little bit leery about the light armor, but I can also kind of get that because I've slept in like a thick jacket and stuff before and was fine. But if you got a breastplate or chainmail or any of the other stuff on, you ain't getting a full rest. You might sleep. You'll sleep.
Barely.
You ain't
wake up
you ain't gonna be rested.
Especially all that cold metal. Because when you're moving, all that cold metal doesn't mean a big deal. But if you sleep in a gambeson that's underneath full plate, you're going to sweat, and then all that metal's going to cool down throughout the night. You're going to have a real bad time.
That sounds awful.
Yep.
I'm just imagining that now, where you just like,
Yeah,
you wake
it's
up
gross.
and you're like, I'm cold. It's like
gross.
when you have sweaty feet and like your socks get wet, but it's your whole body.
Yep. No, just clammy and gross. And it'd be miserable. There's no way. That's why people who, did wear armor back in the day had their squires totally just like doff it all, put it, polish it, put it away, and then they'd have guards outside their tents.
And they haven't. I haven't found anywhere they've listed about sleeping in armor in this yet. So hopefully they do add that, because
it really seasons that iron. It's terrible. But
cook an egg on this.
Seasoning salt.
Oh, ew!
Why does it taste like Doritos?
All right. Okay, both of you. Go back. Like, I would love to talk about the Wizard too, but
we'll do it real quick. You got 9 minutes.
I'm losing. We're probably not going to get the other stuff this time, but
That's fine.
maybe
This is 50
that's
pages.
true. That's true. I do want to actually make a few comments about the other wizards thing, but at least before we go as well. So,
Oh yeah,
Okay,
we'll
so
power through the wizard.
I'm gonna
We're
machine
powering
gun
through the
my thoughts
wizards.
on the wizard.
Do it. Go.
So, you now have a weird, convoluted pile of spells for putting spells into your spell book and then modifying them, which simultaneously feels like every wizard player's dream come true, and also just makes me groan a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because I see it, and
Uh-huh.
I immediately look at this and I go, somebody's gonna break this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna figure out a way to break this.
Yeah.
It's hard because of the cost involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need an item worth 1,000 gold per level of the spell at the end, and at the end of the chain.
Yeah, but I mean, really, I've always viewed wizards as kind of like the magic programmers, and warlocks are like the magic hackers, and this makes way more sense now.
I don't like that you can make it so what was it, the concentration thing? Like, no, you can have advantage. You can't. No, I don't want you to take a spell and go, oh, you're never gonna lose concentration on it. That's not cool.
Yeah.
That's why I keep skeletons with bows and arrows in all of my combats. They don't hit hard, but they'll hit the wizard in the back.
No, I'm pretty sure sorcerers are like the IT department. Like
information with what they get, and they don't get a lot.
Yeah, information services. They're totally information services. They can make magic out of a little bit of stuff. Oh yeah, wizards is mess, isn't it?
It's weird.
Like, I like it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a
There's
good
the
way
part
to
where
put
you're
it.
like,
so
you're like, if I'm doing this, it'd be fun.
So here's what I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like they got to wizard, and they're like, okay, these are all of our ideas, and then they just kind of hashed it together and made it somewhat logical. But it looks like it's still majorly a work in progress.
I think it's weird to turn code everything as spells. Like, I understand why they did it. And wait a second. Hold the phone. I just had a thought.
Scribe spell.
Spell scribe versus the new long rest rules.
Yup. That's what I'm looking at, my dude. You notice that too?
It just clicked that I'm like, can you not scribe spells over a long rest?
Nope. You cannot.
Okay, there's the balance.
Yep, this is going to be tough.
Because it takes a while.
You just don't get the benefits of that long rest.
Yes. You know what?
Which would explain a lot, because you're going to be freaking exhausted after scribing a spell all night.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I don't know if you guys have ever pulled an all-nighter doing some kind of coursework, but the next day you feel like a damn zombie, regardless of how much caffeine you've consumed. That makes sense.
I like it.
They actually put in study fatigue. I love it. They baked in study fatigue.
Casting a spell other than a cantrip. There you go. Because.
All right, I'm jumping around because of where my focus is at. Because we didn't even. I don't know if Hexblade is Hexblade. I think they're getting rid of the Hexblade cross subclass.
Because I think they are. I think they're going to work into Pact of the Blade.
Yeah, they're baking it into the core.
Confusing.
Yeah, well, because Pact Weapon is now a cantrip.
Yep, they're baking it into the core.
they made
those books.
all warlocks proficient in medium armor now.
Which were the two main things you would dip into Hexblade for as a caster.
I mean, I guess I have to see everything together, but I liked that Hexblade was a little different. Hexblade got the medium armor, and Hexblade, got the packed weapon. Like, I liked that.
That was my biggest. That was my biggest worry with Cleric, where like initially I saw with Cleric, they were like, you have different paths you can take. And I was like, that's cool. And then they were like, well, all the paths get the same resources. And I was like, no, don't do that. Like, I want to see a Cleric that like they have a lot of magic, but they can't wear armor. Or I want to see a very armored Cleric, but they don't have like the super potent
more like a
magic
combat Cleric
that their casters do. So
it's
so you'd have a range.
Yeah, I could see that. I would like to see it, an intersection between Warlock and like Rogue or Fighter, as a Hexblade. That would be cool. I wonder if they're just increasing the power level of Hexblade.
Okay. No. Yeah, so I just noticed that, and I forgot to mention it before, and so I think Hexblade is a thing of the past, unfortunately. And then we'll have to see how this Pact Familiar cantrip for the Warlock, what that's gonna do with.
I'm not a fan of Familiars being able to have attack actions. That makes them so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because of the items you can give them. That's all I have to say.
Necklace of Fireball.
Well, it does take your reaction to command it to do something, though.
Yeah, but that's just a reaction.
Yeah.
Normally you're going to be in the back. So.
And if your reaction is to throw a fireball from a necklace of fireballs, it's totally worth it.
It's true.
Or vials of acid.
Just have your familiar run over and just detonate all of the beads on the necklace.
Yeah, yep. I feel like a way to maybe balance it would be the familiar having these extra actions if you're Pact of the Chain.
Yeah, I can see that. I really always, in 5th edition at least, I really get leery of messing with action economy because it really unbalances that player's activity in combat versus everybody else's. And that can really impact the party of players negatively long term.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Like if you sacrificed your action to make your familiar do something really cool, even if that were to like deliver touch attacks for you, that's something different. But I hate to see a group of people disengage because somebody gets additional actions and things, I don't know.
Yeah, I hope they balance it out.
I think they could make it really cool if they treated the familiar like special abilities on your turn.
Well, the other thing I realized is the Pact Familiar. One of its actions is it goes invisible until it is affected. Yeah, it goes invisible until the end of its next turn.
Yep.
But
next turn,
it says it's affected by the invisible condition.
Mm-hmm.
And the invisible condition doesn't specifically mention that disappears once you've attacked.
It says until the end of its turn, next turn.
Yeah.
So it could be every other action being invisible for an unseen attack.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it dangerous. Anyways, yeah, it needs some workshopping there. That's just my opinion. I love the idea of pets. I love the idea of having them in a system, but with a system with such a narrow action economy and bounded accuracy like 5e, you really have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Other systems manage it better. That's what I'm going to say about it.
All right. So now, just because there's been a lot of talk about it, and
WotC.
Brian and I talked about it. Now he also sent an article that I read through. So if you haven't heard, Wizards of the Coast, there was a poor gentleman that bought a box of Magic cards
Yep.
and was, over the course of a few days, on his YouTube channel. He's not a big content creator or anything like that. Only had like 4,000 or something followers, only like 4,000 followers, but it was just a hobby. It wasn't his primary job or way he was trying to support himself. And so he's just opening this box of Magic cards and showing them on his YouTube channel,
like you do, as an influencer.
Turns out that was from a set that was not supposed to be out until May 4th or something like that.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, it was. I think what happened was some inventory got misread and shipped.
Mm-hmm. The guy at the store that he bought them from probably had no idea either.
Nope.
Because if he did, he probably, one, wouldn't have sold them, or two, would have been doing this himself.
Yep. Yeah, I think he just shipped the wrong box.
But anyways.
Yeah. And I
go ahead. Nope.
Go ahead.
Over, Brian.
No.
I'm protecting the waters. That's why I said you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard varying stories where people were like, he knew what he was getting to like what you're saying, and like I don't really think that changes much of what you're about to talk about.
The reaction, it shouldn't matter.
It doesn't change anything.
The reality of the situation is it doesn't matter how it happened, that it just happened.
Yeah.
And this happened.
But, it doesn't affect what he's done, whether he knows or not, because he still didn't do anything wrong.
Nope.
He paid money for something that he was sold. And in the past, people have gotten cards in advance of the release date to do things like this.
Yep.
And happens, I mean, honestly, 2 weeks for the release date, what's...
It's not like you signed an NDA or something.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's not like these are coming out months. Like, it's not like this information is coming out months in advance. It's 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to get back to it, but honestly, this is just...
I would definitely say that the action did not proffer the magnitude of the reaction.
No.
Not in the slightest.
So Wizards of the Coast sends hires a private investigator firm, the Pinkertons.
Of course.
And if you don't know anything about history, if you don't know anything about the history, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad. Go look it up.
It's a private security firm.
There's plenty of information out there. And, I don't want to dive into it because I want to talk about the other thing about this I want to get to.
Yep.
But they send them to compensate, recover the cards that were not supposed to be released yet from this gentleman. And they go to his house.
Yep.
Knock on the door, and regardless of which story is true between, them saying that they didn't intimidate or didn't threaten and whatever, doesn't matter which part of that is true, but I definitely could see this guy's wife being a little bit, because like even if someone were to approach you calmly and be like, your husband has stolen goods, and if he doesn't return them to us, there's possible jail time. You can say that in a calm tone and still make someone cry.
Well, not to mention, if a stranger came to my door like that, they would not be welcomed, regardless of their action. And just throwing that out there. Yeah. I'm happy to communicate with people, but I would be like, okay, well, I will have an appointment with you on neutral territory. Get off my property. Thanks.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't leave in 5 seconds, there's going to be a problem. You need to leave.
Yeah, I don't appreciate my privacy being violated. Thanks.
Yeah, supposedly Wizards was saying, well, we tried to reach out to him and he never responded. And I heard the response to that, which I would 100% am on board for, is they called from an unknown number and didn't leave a voicemail, which I'm like...
They'll leave a message if it's important.
In this day and age.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I turn off, I don't know how many unknown numbers during a day. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's important, they'll leave a message.
And on top of that too, if they were able to find where he
Stupid
lived.
long COVID.
Email. Post a comment on his YouTube channel or
Yeah.
send him so many other ways you could have contacted him than
Send
An
him a
just by
official email
certified
number.
letter.
Yeah. An official
Send him a
letter.
certified letter that just like serve him papers. Just say, here, we need to talk. You have our stuff. You have gotten this.
Mhm. Now, the guy did hand over the cards, you know, and as I found out in the article that Brian shared with me, but only in this article is the only place I've seen this so far, Gizmodo.
Gizmodo's great.
Wizards is giving him equal value of cards from his set of choice.
Mhm.
So he has not lost any money. The problem here is that I found that out by reading the Gizmodo article from someone who did good reporting on this situation. Good, unbiased reporting. They
Yep.
supplied information from both sides. They put the comments they got from Wizards in there, comments that were, from the person involved and everything too. And this is just a huge missed opportunity for Wizards to do something. They could have turned this into
A
something
great
where
PR story.
they could have came out smelling great from this. All it would have taken was them like letting the public know what they
What the
did
hell
in
happened?
response rather than not doing anything about it. Also, you could have not sent a hired private security firm to muscle someone out of something.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
little
that's just
strange.
not a good look, especially after what they've done
Yeah.
recently.
That is a
Like, where they're
physical.
just like,
I mean, I wonder if there was anybody in the office that goes, "Hey guys, maybe we should talk about this before this happened," because like
maybe let's
It's
just give them this one.
it's the most tone
Yeah.
deaf thing I've seen in a while as
And
far as a reaction during the current climate of things.
it is a physical representation of what they tried to do with the OGL.
I hate to say it, but it really is. It's
I mean, I will say the nice thing about this is that if anybody was starting to think, well, like Wizards of the Coast, they're our buddies, they're our friends. No, they're a corporation.
they want your
Corporations
money.
aren't your friends.
Yep,
Yeah, the
just like
only
the police.
Wait, what?
yes.
Hey, Brian, is somebody knocking on your door right now? I mean,
Yep. Large companies are
Oh.
never your friend. Remember that, kids.
In other news, Real Paizo actually did announce that they are remastering second edition.
Yep,
Ooh,
they are.
interesting.
It's coming at the end of 2024. So interesting where that's going to pop up. So Wizards, maybe you should keep your nose clean. Every
Especially with
time you do
Dagger
this,
Heart
I feel
coming out.
Yeah, that too.
that
We don't have a date on that, but that's just Wizards is just going to keep
It-
digging a hole in Pathfinder, and with looking at I don't even know all the information yet about Daggerheart, but just the fact
All
that
you need to know is that Critical Role is releasing their own fantasy TTRPG.
D20 system.
And that is the market share of D&D players.
Yeah, that's I don't know if either of you are active at all on the TikTok.
Yep.
On the TikTok.
But there have been I love doing
the
that because it
Facebook
upsets people
Reels,
so much. The Facebook Reels, the YouTube Shorts,
YouTube Shorts.
but because I remember right when the OGL started, a lot of people were like, "Why isn't Critical Role doing anything? This is ridiculous. This is just Critical Role is not for the fans." My face has disappeared.
Wall.
There we go. It's the
It's
mists.
okay.
I play Curse of Strahd.
No,
It's the mists of Barovia. They just
it's your
follow me.
anonymity. That way they can't knock on your door.
Or goodbye, Pinkertons. But like a lot of people, they were saying like with the OGL, they were like, "Well, like why isn't Critical Role saying anything?"
They
And they're
are.
like, well, Critical Role that they have done a lot, but they're doing it in the way because they too are a corporation now.
Yep.
And they have to think about how they do things, and that's I watched
they
somebody that was pointing out like they haven't had sponsors for a while. They
Mhm.
only recently did a D&D Beyond sponsor,
Yep, they're
and
separating themselves.
Yeah,
Matt
they've
was
been
very
having
careful. And apparently their books, their 5e books, are on a final sale right now
Yep.
on their website.
Yep.
So like any of their 5e stuff, they're like, this is it, get it
Yeah,
now.
like they
Goodbye.
indefinitely postponed their Critical Role Adventures RPG board game. Like they have changed gears entirely to protect their own brand. And
And they did it
yep,
quietly, which
yep.
is it
yep,
makes sense.
Well, also the things they did say
we're
when they
very
said it
obviously pro indie.
were worded very
And
carefully,
Hmm. They said a lot by
worded
saying
very
nothing.
worded very smartly,
Yeah,
and yeah, like
they said a
the
lot by saying not much.
yeah, and just like yeah, Brian said they're a corporation of their own, so like they could if they had done the wrong thing during this debacle, Wizards could have buried them,
Yep.
and it wouldn't be just those people you see on camera. It would be their entire staff and
Yeah, which is
everybody else that works for them that's out. So they were doing what was best,
to
not just to
protect their
keep
brand
their big
identity.
paycheck, to keep
Yeah.
their brand in it, and also to protect their people.
Yeah, because they got what, over 100 people working for them now, something like that.
Probably.
But I mean,
yeah,
and they've done more for the TTRPG industry than anybody. Like Critical Role is directly responsible for mainstream D&D,
Mhm.
and when they release their TTRPG, you can guarantee at least half of the people that are looking at the new version of D&D with the new set of books going, huh, do I really want to spend money on this, or do I want to spend money on the people that, if I have to learn something new anyways, where is my money going to go? And it's
yeah.
going to go to the people that they love more. Because you can't fake the brand and fan ownership that CR has. They built that up by earning it. So, I mean, if I were Wizards, I'd be really freaking nervous right now about Critical Role.
And the thing is, they're probably not, because
No.
they're idiots, and
Well,
they've missed so
Well,
they've missed all these
as
chances to do the right thing, or to make something, even spin something in a good way, by saying nothing.
as has been mentioned in the chat, there are probably people that are worried, but it's the higher ups, the ones that have made these hasty
mhm.
and moronic decisions that are like, no,
Yeah,
this is just how we do
it's
things.
definitely not the design team, but the business sector team, especially the technical guy who's leading the VTT. You know what he said recently, right? That their biggest competition is going to be Fortnite.
How?
That should explain to you the direction that they're leaning.
And
Yeah.
it's all gonna come crashing down.
I don't think so. They're going to get a huge market share by turning D&D into a virtual game. They're going
But
to
it's
get a
not going to be
huge.
us.
No, it won't be us.
It's gonna be a new market.
That's exactly what they're aiming for. They're aiming for the millions.
We're going to go back to the to where we were prior to Critical Role and Stranger Things.
Yep, exactly. There's going to be an entirely new sector that deals with the virtual tabletop that's D&D Direct.
Oh, I see how it works now.
Yeah.
Everything comes full circle.
Yeah, if you look at it, that's why they don't care about the OpenGL. The only reason they were trying to tweak the OpenGL was VTT protection. The only reason. That's why they pulled it all off of there. You heading out, Jeff?
I'm leaving. Gotta go.
Yes.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it anyways.
Yeah.
Say something, Jeff.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time at DGG. All right, thanks, folks, for hanging around.
We'll see when that's gonna be.
Yeah, we might have to change the time. I think that both Brian and Jeff would like an earlier time slot. All right. Anyways, folks. Bye.